Okay, my name is Jeff Gregg. I'm creating this video on fully utilising technology for creative writing. My second attempt at it, because the first one, for some reason or other, Google Hangout didn't record some of my screen parts of it. All right, so what is creative writing? Creative writing is the ability to, what you need is when you write something completely out of your mind. In other words, you think of something and then you write it. You think of something and write, as opposed to, for example, copywriting, where you simply write it down. Okay. There's problems with creative writing, and the problem is your mind. Okay, we'll explain what that is as I'm going along. Okay, to say how I do this, what I'm going to do is share my screen. All right, so I share my screen, and hopefully it records all my screen share this time, because it didn't last time. We'll see what happens. And the reason it's probably not doing it's got nothing to do with the Google Hangouts. It's got everything to do with the lousy internet speeds that we get here in Australia, and I get at this particular location. Okay, all right. Here's a document I'm working on. It's a web page. Right, it's an alphabetical list of ways not to spend money. Okay. What I've been doing is working on this for a number of months now. Okay, and what I do is I write it, and when I write it, it uses a application that's a setup on my server called DocuWiki. Now, if you don't have DocuWiki, it doesn't matter. There's heaps of ways you can create web pages on the internet. But one of the advantages of this one is it keeps a record of all the changes that I make. So if I've changed this 50 times, there'll be 50 records of everything that I've done. Okay. Now, what I do is when I'm writing something, there's a way of going in and writing it, and you'll see this happen a little bit later on. But when I write things, what I do is create an index. For example, at the top here, it's got an alphabetical list, it's got etc., and it's got some headings. And under these headings, if I come down to the first one for the letter A and then accommodation, I'll put this in alphabetical order. When I do this, it automatically for me creates what's basically called an index, or a table of contents. There it is down the left-hand side there. So what I do is I went through originally and just put in what we call just for the letters A through to Z, and it created that for me. Then I decided what to put in against each of the letters A through to Z. Okay, but I'm thinking of more as I go along. Okay, and they could be any letter, who knows? So what I did is, as I think more, rather than typing it in the middle of this document, right, I always add it to the end. So if I scroll down the bottom and show you what the bottom of this document looks like, you'll notice I've got a whole lot of, there they are, the bottom, below the letter Z, I've got a whole lot of points that I'm going to write things about. For example, I'm going to write about fines, about videos on demand, about newspapers, etc. All right. So let's say I wanted to find, I've already started writing something about newspapers, right? So what I'm going to do is highlight newspapers. And by the way, I never, ever, well, almost never write, key in something that I've already written. So I've already got newspapers there, so I copy it. Okay. Now, when I'm writing it, I'm not going to write it directly on to this particular web page. What I do is utilize a different web page, and the web page that I use is called Google Docs. Okay, Google Docs, which is a Google product, it's completely free, costs you nothing. All right, it's part of a Google Drive function. And if you want to know more about this, I've produced a video previously, a 1-hour trading video of how to use this. I'll perhaps put a link to this as we go along. All right. What I do now is, you'll see I've already written something there. I've gone into Google Docs, right? And I've got fully utilizing technology. So if I don't want that, I'll just delete it. All right. So I've just pressed the delete key and deletes it. So I'm going to write something now. I've already got that heading about newspapers. So I just press Control V, which puts the word newspapers in there, so I don't have to write it. Now, rather than writing something and using the keyboard, what I do is I use a tool. Now, this tool's already switched on. I'll switch it off. Okay, and I go into here, Tools, click on Tools, go down to Voice Typing, and it comes up with that on the left-hand side. I just click on that, and after I click on that, anything I say, it will write for me. So I'm going to do that now. As I said, anything I say, it will write for me. So if I want to write something about newspapers, just talk about newspapers. But if I go blah, 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 and do silly things, it didn't put blah, 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 blah. Okay. All right. So if I've made a mistake, it sometimes makes mistakes, so I need to edit it. Okay, I'll stop it there. All right. I click on the left-hand side and it stops it there. So I can go back and change that blur, blur, blur to something else. For example, I'll just click on there and say something else. It didn't even get that bit right. So anyway, I could correct it again and say something else. All right, so I've written something. Now, while I'm writing something, I sometimes come up with ideas. For example, I've got an idea about newspapers. I think, oh, why should you buy a newspaper? So I'm maybe in the middle of editing that, and I want to write think of something else. My thing is, I discovered if I stop, if I continue writing that, when I go back to think, oh, what about that thing I just thought of? I've forgotten it already. So what I do is I write it straight away. The idea being that this text is already there. I've got something there. If I think of something but I forget it, I won't remember it. So I just click at the bottom of the document, go down, and let's say I want to put something about, as I said, buying newspapers. Voice recognition and write buying newspapers. Switch off voice recognition again, and I'll just get rid of that bit I didn't want. Right, there we are. It's got the word buying newspapers. So I'll go back to writing what I was writing, and then when I get to the stage I want to write something about buying newspapers, I can come down and write something about buying newspapers. Okay, the next thing is I've written all that. I want to get it into the document that I actually use. So what I do is I highlight the whole lot. Right, and by the way, rather than doing it that way, I just press Control A, which is all, and then Control C, which is copy. Copy is the whole damn lot. I go in there and want to find out newspapers. So I've already actually written something about newspapers when I did this the early time. So I'll go back to my index at the top here, go to the N where newspapers are, newspapers. There it is there. I also wrote something about newspapers there. So I go in and I click on this button as edit. Now, every single web editor will be different, but this is the way I do it. I click on edit. It's now calling up that document. Down the bottom it says waiting for Jeff Gregg, and hopefully it won't take too long. See how it's going around because we've got a slow internet. There we are. It's calling it up there, and it's got a bit about newspapers there. Okay, so I don't want that bit. I decide I'm going to replace it with something else. I delete it. Okay, and I put in what I just wrote. Garbage, but don't worry about that. Okay, so that's how I do it. And if I want to finish it, I just click on save. Okay, and saving it for me, saving 60%, 90%, and it'll come back there, reload that page and show it to me, and I can see the changes I've made about newspapers. So if I could go back down there, at the top it's just saying I haven't updated the software for a long while. If I go down to N for newspapers, and there's MN newspapers there, click on there, and there's that extra bit I put about newspapers. Not only do I actually have one copy of this, I have multiple copies of it running. For example, I've got Save Money Alpha List. I've also got Save Money Alpha List in another tab. If you want to know about other tabs, I've got other videos explain about having multiple tabs in documents, in web pages. I go there, and then I wanted to have a link to newspapers, something to do with legal. I'll go down to where I've already written something about legal, which is there, legal. I've got legal there. I'll click on that. It quickly takes me to legal. This thing what's called a URL, part of the URL, which is to do with legal, from this version of it, and I'm copying that, press Control C, copies it, go to this one, and I want to put something about newspapers. I want to put a link to say, see also legal. I click on edit there, go into there, and I just go down to the bottom here. Just don't worry about what they are. That thing that I just copied, put in the word legal. some other special characters. Don't worry about what they are. And then I can say see also. If I now save that, it saves it to my server on the website. If you're using the internet, it would save it to the internet, what it is on the internet. Okay, and when it comes up and I go back to my again, whoops, going back too far, newspapers, there we are. There it is. It's got newspapers and it says see also legal. So that any person that's reading it can then click on legal and then it'll go to the bit that I wrote about legal. Okay, so that's how I write things, okay? Another advantage is that every time I'm writing something here, everything that I write, right, every time I do a version of it, I can go back, and I can't show you this at the moment because I haven't got the function switched on. I can show you a record of all the changes. That says recent changes. In fact, I will do that. I think I can click on that. I'll show recent changes. Also recent changes. It shows that I've done a change to Save Money Alpha list, live online training, some other documents I've created. So if I click on that, it'll go to the previous versions of that I've changed. All right, and I can see all the previous versions of it. If I've done it 50 times, there'll be 50 lines of that when I go to that. Okay, of all the previous ones that I've done. Okay, I'm not going to do that at the moment. Okay, the other advantage also is I've got one copy of it there, another copy of it there, and I've also got the Google version copy of it. And notice that's still there. So if something was to happen to my computer, in fact, my computer was to die completely at the moment, and the hard drive back in, not a problem. It's not stored on this computer. It's stored, this case, on Google server, and the case of that on my own server. So I have multiple copies of it spread across multiple servers. If I wanted to, if I go to File in this document here, and I go down to where it says see revision history and click on that, it'll show when it comes up. It's going to take a while to load. Hopefully I'm recording all this. The last one I did on newspapers, and on the left there, you can, on the right there, you can see that's I did today, 22nd of July. If I go right back here, I can see all the revisions I did right back to the 4th of May. So I've got multiple versions of everything I'm doing. So this is the advantage of using modern technology to do creative writing. You've got multiple versions of anything. If you make a mistake, you can go back to previous versions. You're using your voice to do the writing of it, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so it's all done for you as you're going along, using the modern ways of doing it. Okay, that's enough about that. If you've got any questions about this, please send me an email. My email address is geoffkgreig@gmail.com. Okay, or if you want to go to my webpage, it's geoff.greig.net.au, right? And links to a whole lot of training that I've got there. If you disregard that top bit, that's some computer training videos. This will actually be that I'm going to put will actually be in that particular there, the live online training that I do. Okay, that's it. Hopefully this is recorded as I've gone through and doing this. If it hasn't, I'll be cheesed off. Okay. So I'm going to stop that recording, stop the screen sharing. All right. Hopefully it's recorded the screen sharing. Hopefully it's recorded the screen sharing. Stop the screen sharing. There we are. It's back to me. So that's the end. Drop me an email if you want to know anything else.